Hello students, now we start the next and last topic of this subject, advanced accounting. The topic's name is valuation of shares. Previous topic we have completed valuation of goodwill. So we have seen the meaning of the term goodwill and what are the methods, and we have done so many problems on finding out the value of goodwill. Now in this video I am going to explain you the theory regarding valuation of shares. Then we'll start the problem. First of all, we'll begin with the meaning of the term share. The capital of a joint stock company is divided into a number of parts. Each such part is called a share. Example, if the company was incorporated with a capital of authorized capital of rupees 10 lakh. 10 lakh. This 10 lakh rupees total capital of the company is divided into 1 lakh parts. Each part consists of 10 rupees. So 1 lakh into 10 is equal to 10 lakh rupees. That is the capital of the company. These shares, these parts of the capital will be issued to the public. The public will purchase the shares. Now, this is the meaning of the term shares. Now in this chapter, in this topic, we are going to discuss about the valuation of shares. How to calculate the value of shares. See here, different people will purchase the share for different reasons. Some people will purchase the share mainly as an investment so that they can be able to convert the shares into cash whenever the need arises. So instead of keeping cash, they will purchase the shares as an investment. Some people will purchase the shares as an asset, as an investment, so that they can be able to get a regular income. Some people will purchase the share for speculative purpose. That means buying the share when the price is low and selling off the share when the price is high. In this way, they will indulge in speculative activities. So different people will purchase the shares for different reasons. Now there is a need that how to find out the value of the share. Now, what do you mean by value of share? We have different meanings to the term value. The value means face value, market value, intrinsic value, or yield value. There are different meanings to the term value. The face value is the value which is given by the promoters. The value which is fixed, which is printed on the face of the share, which is fixed by the company. It will not change. The face value of the share is 100 rupees, 10 rupees, whatever it may be. So it will be decided by the promoters, directors of the company. That is the face value. Market value is the value at which the shares are bought and sold in the stock exchange. Stock exchange is the market where securities are bought and sold. So in that market, at what price the shares are exchanged between buyer and seller, that is called the market price. Third one is intrinsic value of share. The value of share which depends on the assets and liabilities of the company, the net worth of the company. Company की balance sheet से जो value of share मालूम करेंगे by considering all assets and liabilities, that is called intrinsic value. Last value is yield value. The value of share which is computed by considering the profitability or earning capacity of the company. That is called the yield value. So we have different values. Intrinsic value, yield value, market value, or face value, like that. Now need for valuation. Why we have to calculate the value of share? At one time or the other, the people who purchases the share wants to find out its value. So what is the need? First of all, in case of public limited company, the shares are freely exchanged. The shares are freely transferred between one person and another person in the stock exchange, in the market. So we can easily get the market price of share. So whenever a person wants to buy the share, he can buy it at the market value. When a person wants to sell the share, he will sell at the market value. But for small ordinary transaction, it's okay. But when bulk shares, when large number of shares are bought and sold, it is not viable. It is not prudent to take that market value of share. In that case, we have to calculate the real value of share. Similarly, it is not necessary that every public limited company's shares will be exchanged in the market. Only listed company, only quoted companies, shares are exchanged in the market, in the stock exchange. So we can get the market value of share only for the listed companies in the stock exchange. But many companies are unlisted. The shares are not quoted in the stock exchange. In that case, there is a need to calculate the value of share. Similarly, the private company. The shares of a private company are not freely transferable. So how to exchange the shares of a private company? That again depends on calculating its value. So in case of private company, definitely we have to calculate the value of share. Similarly, in case of amalgamation or absorption, when one company takes over another company or two or more companies are amalgamated, there is a need to calculate the value of share. Similarly, when a loan is taken on the security of shares, again, we have to calculate the value of the shares so that we can give the value of security to the lender. So similarly, in case of Wealth Tax Act, we have to calculate the value of the shares. So many reasons are there why we have to calculate the value of share. Now we'll come to the next topic called factors affecting the value of shares. What are the factors that must be considered for calculating the value of share? The first factor is capital employed. In order to calculate the value of share, first of all, we need how much is the capital employed in the business. The capital employed, we can go by liability side approach or asset side approach. According to asset side approach, we take all realizable value of assets minus outside liabilities, present value of outside liabilities, subtract it, we'll get the capital employed. Secondly, we need the earning capacity. In order to calculate the value of share, we need the earning capacity of the business, profitability of the business. Last one is normal rate of return. The rate of return which all other companies in that industry are earning. There are many companies, a group of companies makes the industry. So when we want to find out the value of share of a particular company, we need what is the rate of return all other similar companies in that industry are earning. That is called normal rate of return. When we have these three, we can easily calculate the value of share. Now we'll discuss about the main point, methods of calculating valuation of shares. Different methods are there. Every method will have their own advantage and disadvantage. We cannot say only one method is better. Every method will have their own limitations. So broadly we divide into three categories. The first method of calculating the value of share is net assets method or intrinsic value method or assets backup method. This net assets method will be widely used when large number of shares, bulk shares are bought and sold. जब कोई amalgamate हो रहा है या absorption हो रहा है, ज़्यादा number of shares purchase करने का program है, in that case we apply net assets method. Secondly, earning capacity method or yield basis method. Normally this method will be applied when small number of shares are bought and sold. This method, first method, net assets method, is based on balance sheet data. Whereas this earning capacity method is based on the profitability information, profit and loss statement. Fair value method, third value is fair value. Fair value method is not a different method, it's the combination of intrinsic value and yield value. दोनों को combine करके उसका average मालूम करेंगे तो fair value आ जाएगा. In this way, broadly we have three methods of calculating the value of share. Now we'll discuss about the first method, net assets method, because most of the problems we are going to do on net assets method. So we'll see what are the steps involved in calculating the intrinsic value of share. In calculating the intrinsic value of share. So net assets method. In this way, in this method, first step is all assets should be taken at realizable value, including intangible asset except fictitious asset. जब नेट एसेट्स मेथड से अगर वैल्यू ऑफ शेयर मालूम करना है तो आपको एसेट साइड के ऊपर ऑल द एसेट्स यू हैव टू टेक इंक्लूडिंग द इंटैंजिबल एसेट लाइक गुडविल, पेटेंट राइट, कॉपीराइट, इसको भी कंसीडर करेंगे. एट द रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू मींस नॉट अ बैलेंस शीट वैल्यू. अगर प्रॉब्लम में बैलेंस शीट वैल्यू भी दिया और नीचे प्रेजेंट मार्केट वैल्यू या रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू दिया तो वी कंसीडर द रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू, वेदर रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू इज मोर और लेस देन द बैलेंस शीट वैल्यू. हाँ, अगर रियलाइजेबल वैल्यूज नहीं दिया तो वी कैन टेक द बैलेंस शीट वैल्यू. सो वी टेक ऑल एसेट्स इंक्लूडिंग द इंटैंजिबल एसेट्स, गुडविल, पेटेंट राइट, कॉपीराइट, बट वी शुड नॉट take into account the fictitious asset. The fictitious assets like preliminary expenses, discount on issue of shares, discount on issue of debentures. अगर ये asset side पे fictitious asset दिया तो नहीं लेना. This is the first step. Then after taking all the values, realizable value of all the assets, take the total. From that total, deduct. Deduct all outside liabilities at their present values. Outside liabilities are sundry creditors, bills payable, outstanding expenses, long-term borrowings, debentures, etc. ये सारी चीजें outside liabilities है, उसका present value लेंगे अगर adjustment में दिया तो. अगर adjustment में नहीं दिया तो balance sheet value ले लेंगे. उसी के साथ कुछ unrecorded assets अगर है तो first step में लेंगे. कुछ unrecorded liability है, sometimes in additional information it will be given there was a liability of so and so amount which is not there in the balance sheet. Now it is required to be paid. We should take into account. Similarly, in the additional information, it may be given that one of the asset which is unrecorded, not recorded in the balance sheet. Now we have to take into account. We'll take it. So in this way, we take all the assets, take the total, deduct all outside liabilities. Then after that, deduct the preference share capital also. पहले पूरे assets ले लेंगे, total कर लेंगे, फिर outside liability ले लेंगे, उसको भी निकाल देंगे, minus कर देंगे, preference share capital को भी minus करेंगे. Deduct the preference share capital. Get the funds available for equity shareholders. Preference share capital निकालने के बाद we will get the funds available for equity shareholders or equity shareholders fund it is called. Then apply the following formula to get the intrinsic value of the equity share. That's all. बस इतना ही काम करना है. एसेट्स का पूरा ले लेना टोटल, माइनस लायबिलिटीज, आउटसाइड लायबिलिटी निकाल दिए, माइनस प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल निकाल दिए, तो इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स फंड बचेगा और अमाउंट अवेलेबल फॉर इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स. अब फॉर्मूला अप्लाई करेंगे. अमाउंट इंट्रिंसिक वैल्यू इज इक्वल टू नेट एसेट्स अवेलेबल फॉर इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स डिवाइडेड बाय नंबर ऑफ इक्विटी शेयर्स. फंड अवेलेबल फॉर इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स डिवाइडेड बाय नंबर ऑफ इक्विटी शेयर्स विल गेट द इंट्रिंसिक वैल्यू. दैट्स ऑल. दिस इज द फर्स्ट मेथड ऑफ कैलकुलेटिंग द वैल्यू ऑफ शेयर, which is called net assets method, intrinsic value method, or assets backup method. Different names are given for this method. Now second method, before second method, first we'll discuss about partly paid up shares. Sometimes a company may have different classes of shares. A class share, B class share, C class share. And the paid up value of every class share is different. Example, A class share are those shares whose face value is 10 rupees and paid up value is also 10 rupees. 10 रुपये का शेयर है और कंपनी पूरे 10 rupees कॉल कर ली, fully called and paid up share, A class. B class shares are those shares of rupees 10 each where 8 rupees per share was called up, partly paid. 10 रुपये का शेयर है लेकिन कंपनी अभी तक कॉल करी है सिर्फ 8 rupees. अभी 2 rupees कॉल नहीं करे, uncalled है. C category shares again are those shares of 10 rupees each, 6 rupees per share called up. तो पहला शेयर 10 रुपये का है, पूरे 10 रुपये कॉल अप, फुल्ली कॉल्ड अप. सेकंड 10 रुपये का शेयर है, 8 रुपये कंपनी कॉल करी, 2 रुपये कॉल नहीं करी. तीसरी क्लास में 10 रुपये का एक शेयर है, 6 रुपये कंपनी कॉल करी, 4 रुपये कॉल नहीं करी. तो इस तरह डिफरेंट क्लासेस ऑफ शेयर्स. अब ऐसे सिचुएशन में हाउ टू कैलकुलेट द वैल्यू ऑफ इक्विटी शेयर. तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वी कैलकुलेट द नेट एसेट्स. Net assets means we take all the assets, realizable value of all assets minus outside liabilities. Before deducting outside liability, we make a notional call. We make a notional call. Imaginary. Notional का मतलब होता है imaginary call. ऐसा समझेंगे कि जो partly paid shares है उसको भी fully paid up कर दिए. यानी फॉर एग्जाम्पल 10,000 शेयर्स है जिसके ऊपर 2 रुपये आने का है, 8 rupees पेड अप है, 2 rupees ड्यू है. तो 10,000 इंटू 2, 20,000. तो ये एज्यूम करेंगे, इमेजिन करेंगे 20,000 रुपीज आ गए, तो नेट एसेट्स में 20,000 रुपीज ऐड कर देंगे. उसी तरह सी क्लास शेयर में 4 रुपीज आने का है, 6 रुपीज पेड अप है, 4 रुपीज आने का है. अब वो 4 रुपीज भी मंगा लिए, तो 4 रुपीज इंटू 10,000, 40,000, ये 40,000 रुपीज भी आ गए. इमेजिन करना क्या है. अब इन दिस वे आफ्टर मेकिंग द नोशनल कॉल all the shares will become fully paid. वी कैलकुलेट द वैल्यू ऑफ द शेयर एज यूजुअल, जैसा कैलकुलेट करते थे वैसे प्रोसीजर फॉलो करेंगे. we'll get the value, intrinsic value of fully paid up share. फुल्ली पेड अप शेयर ए क्लास शेयर का वैल्यू आ गया. अब बी क्लास शेयर का वैल्यू मालूम करने के लिए वॉट एवर ए क्लास वैल्यू ऑफ शेयर यू गॉट फ्रॉम दस डिडक्ट द अनपेड कॉल. अनपेड कॉल कितना है? 2 रुपये. फॉर एग्जाम्पल 15 रुपीज वी गॉट द वैल्यू ऑफ द फुल्ली पेड अप शेयर. 15 रुपये आ गया इंट्रिंसिक वैल्यू ऑफ फुल्ली कॉल्ड एंड पेड अप शेयर ए क्लास शेयर. अब बी क्लास का मालूम करना है तो बी क्लास में अनपेड कॉल कितना है? 2 रुपये है. तो 15 रुपीज में से 2 रुपीज निकाल दो, 13 रुपीज. 13 रुपीज इज द इंट्रिंसिक वैल्यू फॉर बी क्लास शेयर. अब सी क्लास शेयर का मालूम करना है तो अनपेड अमाउंट 4 रुपीज है. तो 15 रुपीज में से 4 रुपीज माइनस कर दो, 11 रुपीज इज द इंट्रिंसिक वैल्यू सी क्लास शेयर. तो स्टार्टिंग में हम नोशनल कॉल करे थे. नोशनल का मतलब इमेजिनरी, सपोज किए थे, रियल कॉल नहीं करे. Just to find out the intrinsic value, we supposed that the partly paid up share we have converted into fully paid up, and in this way we can calculate this value of partly paid up shares. The concept will be more clear after doing the problem. Next method is yield basis. Broadly three methods. First method, net assets method, just now we have discussed. Second method is yield basis or earning capacity method. In this method, we will not consider the assets and liabilities. We consider the profitability of the business, profit of the business. So, the formula for calculating the yield value is expected rate of return divided by normal rate of return into paid up value per share. ये formula apply करके हमको yield value of share आए. तो what is the yield value? Expected rate of return divided by normal rate of return into paid up value per share. अब प्रॉब्लम में एनआरआर तो देता है, एवरी प्रॉब्लम में नॉर्मल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न. व्हाट डू मीन बाय नॉर्मल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न? द रेट ऑफ रिटर्न which is earned by other organizations, similar companies. सिमिलर कंपनीज जो रेट ऑफ रिटर्न अर्न कर रहे हैं उसको कहते हैं एनआरआर. ये प्रॉब्लम में देता है. And paid up value per share, that will also be given in the problem. The only thing is we have to calculate the expected rate of return. Expected rate of return. So how to calculate the expected rate of return? Take the average profit of the past few years. Average profit of the past few years. और वो average profit में से changes करेंगे future में. Future में अगर कुछ expenditure होने वाला है तो वो average profit में से minus करेंगे. फ्यूचर में कुछ इनकम होने वाली है तो वो एवरेज प्रॉफिट में इनकम को ऐड कर देंगे. इस तरह फ्यूचर चेंजेस अगर होने वाले प्रॉब्लम में इंफॉर्मेशन दिया तो उसको एडजस्ट करेंगे पास्ट एवरेज प्रॉफिट. देन विल गेट एक्सपेक्टेड प्रॉफिट. अब एक्सपेक्टेड प्रॉफिट को डिवाइड करेंगे कैपिटल, इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल. तो एक्सपेक्टेड प्रॉफिट डिवाइड बाय इक्विटी शेयर कैपिटल इनटू 100. Expected profit divided by equity share capital into 100. What we get? Expected rate of return. एक बार expected rate of return आ गया तो easily we can apply this formula to get the yield value. This is also one of the method of calculating the value of share called yield value. Last method is fair value method. It's not an independent method. It is dependent on intrinsic value and yield value. दोनों का simple average निकालेंगे. The fair value is the simple average of the intrinsic value and the yield value. तो पहले intrinsic value मालूम करेंगे, yield value मालूम करेंगे, दोनों को add करके divided by 2 कर देंगे. तो intrinsic value plus yield value divided by 2. What you get is fair value per share, fair price per share or fair value per share. This is the theory regarding the valuation of shares. It's not a big chapter, it is a small chapter, very easily understandable, just like valuation of goodwill. Valuation of goodwill जैसा किए थे उसी तरह हमको valuation of shares करना है. Not at all a difficult chapter, very easy chapter. Right? So we have concluded, we have completed the theoretical part of the topic valuation of shares. In the next session, we'll start the problems on valuation of shares.